The flashing red and blue lights painted my lawn like a crime scene from a TV drama. My hands were behind my back, wrists cuffed tight, and the chill from the steel bit into my skin. I stood there, barefoot, stunned, while two officers muttered quietly into their radios. Across the street, Karen was putting on the performance of a lifetime. Mascara-streaked tears rolled down her cheeks as she clutched her phone like it was her last lifeline. "That's him!" she shrieked, voice cracking. "He stole my identity. He drained my account. He's been stalking me." Neighbors peeked through curtains and opened doors, watching the commotion like it was their favorite drama series. All eyes on me, the quiet guy with the clean yard and the working-from-home lifestyle. One officer looked at me and said, "Sir, you have the right to remain silent." I closed my eyes, exhaled slowly. You're probably wondering how I got here. Why this woman is accusing me of a crime she committed. Why I'm standing in cuffs while she cries to the cops. It didn't start here. No, this started a few weeks ago, when I noticed a strange charge on my credit card, and when I made the mistake of trusting a neighbor. It started off as a fresh start. New house, new neighborhood, new sense of peace. I'd just moved into a cozy single-story home on a quiet cul-de-sac where every mailbox was freshly painted, and the lawns looked like something out of a home and garden magazine. It was the kind of place where neighbors actually waved when you drove by, and left welcome baskets on your porch with handwritten notes. I work from home doing freelance software development, which means most days I'm parked at my desk in joggers with a coffee mug permanently attached to my hand. The quiet was perfect for coding marathons, and the occasional walk around the block gave me enough social contact to stay sane. I thought I'd found the ideal balance. Most of my neighbors were kind, if a little nosy in that suburban way, except for one, Karen. She lived directly across the street in a beige two-story with matching beige energy. From the moment I moved in, she had something to say. First, it was a complaint about my recycling bin being too visible from the street. Then, it was passive-aggressive comments about how my grass was coming in patchy. I smiled and nodded, tried to stay civil, but she never let up. What bothered me more wasn't the fake concern about property values. It was the way she asked questions. Odd ones. "You work from home, right? Must be nice to not worry about a boss breathing down your neck." "Oh, you do tech stuff? So like banking apps and payment things?" At the time, I brushed it off as weird small talk. Maybe she was just trying to relate. Or maybe she was just a lonely, chatty neighbor with a superiority complex. I didn't know it then, but she was fishing for information, learning just enough to figure out how to insert herself into my life. Looking back, I wish I'd trusted my gut. There was something off about her from the beginning, something too rehearsed about the way she smiled when I waved, like she already knew what she was going to do. Like she'd already picked me as her next target. It started with an alert from my banking app, just a routine push notification during lunch. I was microwaving leftover pasta when I glanced at my phone and saw it. Transaction approved, $395. Zero, Allstate auto insurance. I blinked. Insurance? I didn't have a policy with Allstate. My car was fully paid off and covered through another provider, and I certainly hadn't authorized any new payments. Maybe it was a mistake, a clerical error, or a glitch. It happened, right? So I did what any rational person would do. I grabbed my laptop, logged into my bank account, and stared at the transaction line like it might change if I looked long enough. Nope. Still there. Still pending. Still $395. Confused, I called the customer service line. The representative on the other end was polite, professional, and utterly unhelpful. "Sir, the charge was made online using your full card number, expiration date, billing zip, and CVV security code. It was authenticated through your existing profile." "What profile?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. The merchant reported that the billing information matched what's on file. This wasn't a stolen swipe or a random guess. Someone had everything. I felt my stomach drop. That creeping sense of violation hit me like a punch in the gut. Someone had my full card details, and they'd used it like it was theirs. "I need to cancel the card immediately," I said, "and dispute the charge." Yes, sir, I'll deactivate the card and issue you a new one. I'm also flagging the transaction for fraud and escalating your case to the investigations team. After hanging up, I sat back and tried to think. I hadn't lost my wallet. I hadn't used the card anywhere sketchy. I was careful, paranoid even, about phishing emails and shady websites. So how the hell did someone get access to all of it? The only way someone could have pulled this off was if they knew me. Not just in passing, but well enough to have gathered pieces of my personal information over time. That's when it hit me. The weird questions, the overly specific small talk, the way Karen had asked about my job and whether I dealt with financial stuff. No, it couldn't be her. Could it? I shook my head. It felt insane to even consider accusing a neighbor based on a few awkward conversations. Still, I couldn't ignore the growing pit in my stomach. Something was wrong, very wrong, and the evidence was just starting to surface. I wasn't just the victim of a random cybercrime. Someone close had stolen from me, and they were about to learn I wasn't the kind of guy who lets things go. For the next few days, I couldn't focus on anything, not work, not meals, not even sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that $395 charge and imagined some stranger sliding into a car they didn't pay for, insured under my name, coasting down the road while I scrambled to pick up the pieces. But what gnawed at me more than the money was the how. Someone had my full credit card information, including the security code. That's not something you just guess. That's someone with access, real access. So I started investigating the only way I knew how, by retracing every possible breadcrumb. I pulled up every account I had tied to the card, changed every password, set up two-factor authentication where it wasn't already in place. Then I went full paranoid mode. I checked the outgoing mail bin at the end of the street twice a day to make sure none of my bills were missing. I went back through a month of trash, yes, literal trash, making sure I hadn't accidentally tossed something with sensitive info still legible. Nothing. Then I turned to my email. I scanned every inbox, searched every keyword I could think of. Still nothing obvious. But the thing about obsession is, it changes how you see patterns. That's when I remembered Karen. Her strange little comments about working from home. The nosy way she asked about how I handle bills and whether I trusted online payments. At the time, I thought she was just trying to make conversation. But now, it felt calculated. The idea that she might have watched me take out my trash, maybe even fished through it after dark. It made my skin crawl. Then came the break. One afternoon, while taking out my own mail, I noticed something sticking out of the communal box area. It was an opened envelope, half jammed into the outgoing slot, flapping in the breeze. Normally, I wouldn't think twice, but the name on it made me stop cold. Karen D. Shaw. I knew I shouldn't, but curiosity had long since bulldozed over my moral compass. I pulled it free, just to see. The contents were still inside. My heart dropped. It was a billing statement from Allstate. The account name was hers, the policy, matched the charge on my account, and the payment method. A line at the bottom read, paid with Visa ending in 8621. That was my card. My card that I'd canceled just a few days ago. I staggered back like someone had punched me. The envelope fluttered from my hand, and I quickly shoved it back into the mailbox like it had burned me. But it didn't matter. I'd seen enough. Karen hadn't just stolen my information. She'd used it to pay for her own damn car insurance. Boldly, casually. As if it was her right, and she hadn't made a single mistake. That's what scared me most. She hadn't used the card in stores where she could be caught on camera. She hadn't bought anything flashy or trackable. Just slid right under the radar, until now. I stared across the street at her beige house, blinds drawn like always, and I made myself a promise. She wanted to play games? Fine, I was going to win. Going to the police right away would have been the obvious move, but I've worked enough tech contracts with legal departments to know how that plays out. It'd be my word against hers, a neighborly dispute over a few $100. No hard. Proof, no case. She'd smile, deny everything, and walk away clean. No. If I was going to bring Karen down, I needed evidence so airtight even she couldn't wriggle out of it. So I set a trap. First, I dusted off an old burner credit card I hadn't used in over a year, one I'd frozen but kept active for emergencies. I logged into the account, added a small balance to it, and made a single, carefully staged charge, $99.99 to StreamSage Pro Plan, a fake subscription service I set up with help from a friend of mine who works in IT security. Next, I created a spoofed email that looked like it came from Allstate's customer service department. The language was perfect, just robotic enough to seem real. Dear policyholder, we're experiencing a payment processing issue with your existing billing method. Please update your preferred card on file using the secure link below to avoid coverage disruption. Click here to update your billing method. Thank you for choosing Allstate. It was subtle, just enough to scare her into thinking her precious car insurance might lapse if she didn't act fast. I used a VPN to send the email from a dummy account to an address I knew she used. A few months earlier, she'd bragged about writing to the HOA about someone parking too close to her mailbox, and the reply thread had gone out to the neighborhood. Her full email address, KarenDShaw71@gmail, was right there. I sent the email and waited. Within 24 hours, she bit. She clicked the link and entered her updated payment information, including the full card number, expiration date, and CVV. But here's the kicker. She didn't just give me new card info. By submitting the form, she also handed over her IP address, browser info, and time-stamped metadata. All of it logged, archived, and traceable straight back to her home network. Just to be sure, I verified the IP address against the one she used during the neighborhood Facebook watch meetings we'd both attended. Same device, same digital fingerprint. Boom. Now had irrefutable proof that Karen had not only accessed the fake payment form, but had done so from her home, using her real credentials. That meant she wasn't just in possession of my stolen card. She was actively committing digital fraud, and she had no idea she'd walked right into a snare of her own making. I sat back in my chair that night, stared at her beige house glowing under the porch light, and sipped my beer with a satisfied smile. Next move was mine. But this time, the game wasn't going to be quiet. I was going to confront her. On my terms. The next morning was cool and quiet. Birds chirping, sprinklers ticking in the distance. Perfectly peaceful, almost unnaturally so. I stood at the edge of my lawn with a folder tucked under one arm, watching Karen water her hydrangeas like she didn't have a single care in the world. My heart pounded, but my steps were steady as I crossed the street. I wasn't going over there to scream or accuse. I had no need to. I had proof, cold, digital, undeniable proof. I was giving her one chance to own up before I handed everything over to the police. She looked up when she heard me coming, her expression instantly shifting from surprise to forced politeness. "Oh, morning," she said, voice tight. "Hey, Karen," I said, stopping just short of her steps. "Can we talk for a second?" She blinked, the corners of her mouth twitching as she sensed something was off. "About what?" I opened the folder and pulled out a printed screenshot, her Allstate policy showing my card as the payment method. Beneath it, another printout. The fake billing form submission, her IP address and timestamp circled in red. About how you've been using my credit card to pay your bills. Her face paled. She dropped the hose, water still spraying into the dirt. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. I know it was you. I have your IP address, your submission info, everything. You've been stealing from me, and I've got enough to make sure you're charged." She stared at me, frozen, just for a second. Then suddenly her eyes widened, and she took a step back like I'd pulled a weapon. "You're insane. You've been stalking me. I knew something was wrong with you," she screamed. "What? You think I don't notice you watching me? You go through my mail. You stole my card info, and now you're trying to frame me. What are you talking about? I have proof." Karen turned and bolted into her house, slamming the door behind her. Through the front window, I saw her pick up the phone. I didn't even have time to react. Minutes later, the sound of sirens echoed down the street. 2 police cruisers pulled up fast, too fast. Doors flew open, Neighbors began peeking out their windows. Karen was already outside, wild-eyed and sobbing. "That's him!" she shouted, pointing like she was casting a spell. "He's been following me, hacking me. He stole my identity. He's obsessed with me." The officers moved with purpose. "Sir, step away from the porch." "She's lying," I said, voice rising. "I have the evidence right here." "Sir," I said, "step away from the porch and put your hands behind your back." I froze. My arms slowly moved behind me as one officer grabbed my wrists and cuffed them. The metal clicked tighter than I expected, biting into my skin. Karen collapsed onto her lawn in a dramatic heap, sobbing and gasping like she'd just survived. An attack. I was stunned. Speechless. They walked me to the cruiser without another word. I didn't resist. I just kept my eyes on her. She waved her phone at the crowd, crying into it. "He hacked everything. I'm terrified. I don't feel safe." In my own neighborhood. The back seat of the cop car was cold. The door slammed shut behind me with a mechanical finality. I stared at my own house across the street, and I thought, she really thinks she's going to get away with this. They booked me, printed me, and stuck me in a holding cell with a flickering fluorescent light and the scent of stale sweat clinging to the walls. I sat there, arms folded, heart pounding, not from fear, but from fury. I hadn't come this far to let Karen's fake tears ruin me. When they finally called me into an interview room, I didn't wait for the questions. "I want to speak to a fraud investigator," I said, dead serious. "Right now. Not a patrol cop, not a rookie. Someone who knows how digital theft works. Because I have everything you need to prove she set me up." The detective across from me, Detective Morrison, mid-40s, calm eyes, tilted his head. "You, claiming she stole your identity?" "No, I'm not claiming anything. I'm proving it." I pulled out my phone, thankfully returned to me when they didn't press charges on the spot, and laid it all out. First, I showed him the Allstate transaction, matched to my stolen credit card, billed to her address. Then the screenshots of the spoofed billing form. "She submitted this from her home IP address," I said, enlarging the metadata and server logs. "That number right there traces back to her AT&T fiber connection. I verified it through Facebook login data from our neighborhood group." Morrison raised an eyebrow. "You got a background in cybersecurity?" "Freelance software dev. I've worked contracts on payment security systems. I know what I'm doing." I wasn't done. I opened the folder app and showed him a still image from my doorbell camera. Karen walking up to my porch 2 weeks ago, bending over, clearly fiddling with something. Time-stamped. She never knocked. She wasn't delivering. Cookies. Camera caught her near my mailbox and front door. No reason to be there unless she was looking for something. I watched the shift in Morrison's posture. Subtle, but real. He leaned forward now, not because he doubted me, but because he was interested. "You said she called in claiming you were harassing her. Any history between you two?" "Just neighborly tension, but I kept it civil. She's the one who started asking weird questions about my job and payments. I dismissed it, until I got hit with a $395 insurance charge I never made." He nodded, then stood. "Wait here." 20 minutes passed before he returned, this time with another officer in tow. Morrison's tone was cooler now, more measured. "You're free to go," he said. "You're not being charged with anything today." I stared at him. "That's it?" "For now. We're going to take a closer look at the evidence you provided. In the meantime, I'm advising you not to contact your neighbor and not to speak about this with anyone. The case is being opened under digital fraud and identity theft." That was all I needed to hear. I nodded once, collected my things, and walked out of the station with the quiet confidence of someone who'd just flipped the script. By the time I got back to the neighborhood, Karen's house was dark. No porch, lights, no movement. For once, she was the one hiding, and I wasn't done yet. This wasn't just about proving I was innocent anymore. It was about making sure she never did this to anyone else again. Didn't take long for the pressure to start showing. The very next day, Karen was a different person. The confident, passive-aggressive HOA princess had morphed into a twitchy mess. Her hair was unbrushed. Her robe clung to her like she hadn't changed in days. She stormed out to scream at a UPS driver because he looked too long at her porch, then spent 20 minutes pacing her front lawn, muttering to herself. By the third day, she duct-taped a plastic dome to her porch light and pointed a laminated sign at the street. 24/7 surveillance in progress. Trespassers will be prosecuted. It was a cheap knockoff, one of those fake cameras from a hardware store clearance bin. The lens still had the sticker on it. I didn't say a word, but I noticed the unmarked car. It started parking 2 houses down from her place, first for a few hours in the morning, then again in the evening. Always the same dark SUV, always the same driver, a guy in a ball cap pretending to read a newspaper. He wasn't subtle, and he wasn't trying to be. The kind of presence meant to spook someone just enough to keep them off balance. Karen noticed. She peeked through the blinds so much I'm surprised the cords didn't snap. Every time a car slowed down, she flinched. At one point, she bolted out with a trash bag and tossed it directly into her neighbor's bin, then darted back inside like she was being hunted. And honestly, she was. That evening, I got a call from Detective Morrison. "Just wanted you to know, this thing goes deeper than we thought," he said. "How deep?" "She didn't just steal your information. She's hit at least 4 other people in the neighborhood. One guy had a Netflix subscription from San Diego he never signed up for. Another woman got charged for pet insurance. Karen doesn't even have a pet." My stomach turned. I'd suspected she was slick, but this was pathological. Morrison's tone was firm. "We're moving in tomorrow." I slept like a rock that night. The next morning was calm and sunny. I was sipping coffee on my porch, watching birds peck at my feeder, when the black SUVs rolled in. Quiet, precise. 3 officers approached her house with the confidence of people who already had a warrant in hand. Karen opened the door, and whatever calm she had left evaporated on the spot. "I knew this was coming," she shrieked, backing away from the doorway. "He framed me. He's been after me since day one." The officers didn't flinch. One calmly stepped forward. Read her rights as she flailed and sobbed and screamed at every neighbor within earshot. "I didn't do anything. He stole my identity. I'm the victim." She kicked as they cuffed her. A few neighbors gathered to watch, whispering in disbelief. That was the last time I saw Karen Shaw standing on her porch. As the cruiser pulled away, her house stood there, quiet and gray, hollow, like the mask had finally slipped and underneath it was just fear and rot. I went back inside and closed the door gently behind me. Justice doesn't always come fast, but when it does, it's loud. The next chapter of Karen's downfall didn't happen in a courtroom. It unfolded on Facebook. 2 days after her arrest, the local neighborhood group exploded like someone had dropped a match in a gas leak. A post from someone, named Tina M., complete with a grainy screenshot of a county booking page, lit the whole page on fire. "Is this our Karen Shaw? Booked for credit card fraud? Charges: identity theft, wire fraud, possession of stolen financial information. Bail: $15,000. Within minutes, the comments poured in. "OMG, I knew it. She once asked to borrow my Wi-Fi password for just a second. I bet she was snooping. She always acted like she was better than everyone. What a fall." So that's where my Amazon Prime charges came from. Even the quiet neighbors, the ones who never posted or showed up to HOA meetings, were chiming in. She threatened to report me to the HOA for my wind chimes. Karen was the real criminal this whole time. The nickname was borne by Sunset. Karen, the fraud queen. It stuck. Her mugshot, bleary-eyed, no makeup, hair frizzed into chaos, circulated like wildfire. Her face became a meme. One neighbor added a glittery crown and the caption, "All hail the queen of chargebacks." And Karen? She was gone. Her house sat dark for days. Then a for sale sign appeared on her lawn with one of those desperate red banners, "Price to sell." Rumor had it she was out on bail but staying with her sister 2 towns over. No one saw her and no one missed her. Every morning I walked past her house on purpose, coffee in hand, watching as the for sale flyers slowly vanished from the info box. Somewhere behind a lawyer's desk, her case was being built, and it wasn't looking good. But in our little corner of suburbia, She was already convicted by silence, by shame, by every "I told you so," echoing from lawn chairs and porch steps. And man, it was glorious. A week later, I received a thick envelope from the police department. At first, I thought it was another one of those automated notices they send after an arrest. But when I opened it, my eyes widened. It was a formal apology. Dear narrator's name, we would like to extend our sincerest apologies for the confusion and distress caused during your recent involvement in the investigation of Karen Shaw. After reviewing the evidence you provided and the details of your case, we recognize your invaluable role in bringing this matter to a swift resolution. We deeply regret the inconvenience and emotional toll this situation has caused you. Thank you for your patience and understanding. Sincerely, Detective Morrison and the Fraud Investigation Unit. I leaned back in my chair, a small smirk curling at the edges of my lips. Apologies from the police didn't come often, especially not when you were the one initially cuffed. But here we were, it felt good. Better than I'd imagined. The next call came from the fraud investigator. Morrison had forwarded the case to him for further review. He was practically gushing. You really did it right. You didn't rush in, didn't get emotional. You collected the facts, and you gave us a lead we could actually act on. Most people would have been too impulsive, but you kept it cool. That's how you beat a scammer. I thanked him. Not entirely sure I deserved that level of praise, but it felt nice nonetheless. Then came the best part, the insurance company. They not only refunded the $395 charge in full, but they sent me an additional $250 as a goodwill gesture. It was a small but satisfying acknowledgement that I wasn't just another victim to be brushed aside. Days passed. Karen's house stayed empty, the sign on her lawn growing weathered, while the rest of the neighborhood moved on. I sat back on my porch one lazy afternoon, coffee in hand, watching the moving truck pull up to Karen's old house. A new family, no doubt. I took a slow sip, then set the cup down with a grin. Let's just hope they don't ask to borrow my credit card. A month later, I found a postcard in my mailbox. The handwriting was messy, rushed, and unmistakably Karen's. It was simple. A few words scrawled in angry block letters. You ruined my life. I hope you're happy. I held it for a moment, letting the weight of her bitterness sink in. Then I did what any sane person would do. I pinned it to the fridge, right next to the magnet shaped like a cat. As I stood back and admired it, I couldn't help but smile. Mission accomplished.